Guys, what is going on in the EuroLeague? In the last 4 days, we had 3 head coaches replaced. And not just some head coaches replaced. 2 of the most iconic EuroLeague head coaches in this century, Ettore Messina and Zeljko Obradovic, stepped down. It was their own decision, and it happened in 48 hours. So Partizan, Milan. Today we have news about Igor Kokoshkov parting ways with Efes. Oded Kotash is actually on a hot seat, and probably it's a matter of days when he was going to be replaced as well. But of course, probably the most shocking news is Zeljko Obradovic. Something we were talking, we were discussing, but I generally believe that nobody actually believed that that's what's going to happen. That Zeljko will pull the trigger.
I think he just realized the situation, and I mean, it's really unfortunate. But as we spoke yesterday with Donatas, it's hard to change the entire roster, and I think Zeljko just understands it. And he said himself, like, he was asked what can be done by him to improve this team, and he said, I don't know how to do that. So when you feel that as a coach, I think no matter if you are a European coaching GOAT, the best of all time in many eyes, you still take this decision. I mean, Partizan looked without energy, without communication. The players did not seem like responding to his words, to what he asked them to do. So you could just feel like that game in Athens, especially the second half, just the decisions offensively and energy, decisions offensively and energy defensively was just ridiculous. So I don't know. It's probably Zeljko decided it was the best thing to do, and you gotta respect that. You gotta respect that. I mean, others didn't do it that quick.
Head coaches resigning is such a 90s thing, actually, because it doesn't really happen these days.
But to no surprise, Messina and Zeljko did, because they're coming from 90s, basically.
Yeah, that's true, because usually any coach in any professional sport now would, even if he understands the situation, even if it is hopeless, he would wait until the club reacts and they will fire him and he will get a financial compensation. But coaches resigning, I think it's a noble thing to do. 2 very different situations. If we talk about Messina and Zeljko, I believe that Zeljko Obradovic just thought that there's nothing more I can do. There is nothing else I can try with this team. I don't see how I could help here. I tried everything. It's just not working. So maybe a coaching change could have some positive impact on the team. And Messina was really different because like in the years before, there were certain moments where it seemed this is the time actually for them to part ways and try something new. And now he left the team in not such a bad shape, actually. They were 6-6, I believe, when he stepped down. It was before the last night game against Maccabi. So the results were not really that bad. They again had a lot of injuries, but he also got some solid wins recently. But for some reason, he decided that now this is the time for me to step down, and they already had a replacement ready, Pepe Poeta. So two different situations, I believe. But I was kind of surprised with Zeljko stepping down, because I still thought he might go through this whole season. Because even last year, they were in trouble. They had a lot of new players. The first part of the season was really difficult, but they survived and they got better. I know they didn't make the playoffs. They didn't reach the goals, but
they stayed competitive
they
until
got
the
better,
end.
and they were competitive. Now maybe he just realized that it's over. There's nothing more I can do right now with this squad. And with him leaving Partizan, the biggest regret probably is that when they had a legitimate shot at the Final Four, that fight happened in Madrid and they lost the series. Because this was the year when everything clicked, when they had Punter, they had Lazor, they had an amazing team.
They played the best basketball at the playoffs.
was at the peak of his coaching probably, because they played amazing offense. Like offensively, other teams just couldn't scout them, couldn't read them, couldn't beat them, and they didn't make the Final Four because the years after were not that great. They had to replace the star players it was always going to be difficult in the market. Yeah, but
I rewatched that fight yesterday because obviously you start reading things about Zeljko. That thing pops up on the feed, and I was like, man, like Kevin Punter doing that, like Shamgar dribble there in front of Sergio Yui. Then we all know what happened, but I just remember that Partizan and how good they were playing, and I was pretty sure they're going to win the whole thing. I know it's just it's 2 games in the semifinal and final, anything can happen, but the confidence they showed, how their chemistry was on that year, it definitely seemed like they were the best team, and they knew it. So just that thing happened. But I think Zeljko could have I'm pretty sure he knew how he can try to fix this team, other things, but new things. But he just understood that I can try anything, but if the guys are not listening to me anymore, like there's no way to move.
to me, it seemed like the situation is hopeless when he publicly addressed the issue of players
Using phones?
using phones before the game. When you start talking about these things publicly, it shows that probably
The team is lost.
You're not getting into their heads. You're not controlling that locker room. The players are living their separate lives. Because any team has issues, but usually they don't talk about them publicly. The coach deals with it internally, and when you go out to media, it looks like, because the players, they read it and they're probably thinking, what the hell? Why is he now having a go at us? Why does it matter if I'm on my phone or not? It's about the performance on the court. So yeah, I think that was the beginning of the end when he said those quotes. But honestly, from the very first game of the season, which was in Dubai, I looked at this Partizan team and I thought, wow, there's so much work to do because they're not playing any defense at all. There is just no effort defensively, and it didn't actually didn't get better. Now it's almost December, and they're still one of the worst defensive teams in the league, if not the worst.
They're the worst, I think.
They are the worst, right?
And they were the worst last season as well. Similar roster.
That's why I'm surprised the way they built this roster and they kept the core for this season. Because even watching the team last year, when you look at the habits of the players, and it starts from defense, making smart fouls, just having good defensive rotations, making good reads, the team was lacking of that. And when you think about Zeljko, there's a lot of good reads involved in his basketball. And you need some players that kind of meet and match Zeljko's tactical demands, his way of thinking. And this team, neither last year nor this season, they were nowhere close to that. So I'm a bit surprised about the way they decided to build this roster and the continuity of their last year's roster. Because, I don't know, to me it's a bit weird. Even Bruno Fernando signing, he's athletic, he's big body, but he also lacks the same thing what I think actually Tariq Jones was lacking of as well. I thought that they needed some more glue guys. Nick Calates, I think, is a good addition in that sense, adding some experience and basketball knowledge, better game reading. But,
Too late.
Nick Calates is not the Nick Calates that he was used to before. It's too late. He doesn't have the same voice as if he was there in previous season. I think Zeljko also lacked this trust in the locker room. Some guys who could spread the message about who Zeljko is, what are his requirements, and how it's being done here. And the fact that they don't have a local core, I think, that's also a reason why, you can lose the locker room easier with the guys who are just coming there and, they don't have any history with the coach, or they don't actually know what he's all about. So
I think it's a great point you're making, because today in basketball, what comes first and what is the most important thing is the roster building. You need to get players that fit together. You need to get players that fit a certain brand of basketball. And then we can talk about schemes. Then we can talk about how good this coach is at scouting the opponent, preparing the game plan, and yada, yada, yada. But if you don't build the roster correctly, if it's not a winning roster, you can draw whatever you want on that board. It's just not going to win you games. It's not going to work. So at the moment, I think the way basketball is shaping in the NBA or in the EuroLeague, the position of the president of basketball operations or the general manager, whatever you call it, is just as important as the coach. Because if you don't do a good job in the summer, you will not get wins even if you sign additional players in November or December. It's going to be just too late. So yeah, they didn't build up the roster that could fit what Zeljko wants to do, and then you suffer. Then you suffer with these results.
But wasn't Zeljko also,
So he
was probably responsible.
So he's basically taking responsibility. Then
Probably,
I'm resigning the players that I signed that I thought were gonna help. It didn't work out.
Because I didn't, for example, did not really understand Jabari Parker signing. You play Partizan in this season and the last 2 years before that, one of the slowest team in the EuroLeague, right? You know that Jabari Parker needs transition to flourish, to show off his game. But you're one of the slowest teams because Zeljko wants to play sets and all that stuff. Then, defensively, you're one of the worst teams, and Jabari Parker is definitely not helping you defensively. Like, he's not helping you on defensive off-ball situations. He tends to lose focus sometimes. He's not a bad defender, but that's just his profile, and you can see that even right now. So where does he fit right now? You need defense, but he's not going to bring it to you, and his biggest strength is transition offense, and you are not doing that. Maybe you're hoping that with him you're going to run more. I don't know, but just in the last 3 years, your track record is you're playing slow. Zeljko's offense, we're going to attack, this and that opponent. We're going now to play this and that set just because we see a weakness of the opponent there. So, yeah, but at the same time, I'm wondering what the majority of Partizan fans are thinking about this resignation, and I'm wondering what are they thinking about the players that they have, because I think Zeljko is still a legend there. He will always be there. And if you're not showing effort defensively under Zeljko, I'm not sure how they're going to celebrate if all of a sudden the players basically, by showing this lack of effort, force the greatest of all time, the Partizan legend, force him to leave the club. And now under a coach, you have this, the new coach effect, and you're playing all of a sudden super hard that you didn't do for the last who knows how many months. And I'm like, are you happy with the players that they actually forced Zeljko into resigning, but they're now giving the effort? Like,
we will see if they will even get any better.
Yeah,
that's.
I just hope it's worth it.
I have doubts about that, honestly, because defense is a thing where some people that are not that much into basketball might think we can have two good defenders on the court and they will do the job, and the rest might be not so great. Maybe it was like this some time ago, like you trust two players on defense with certain assignments, and this is basically your defense. But now it's either all of the guys on the court are playing hard defense and giving 100% and putting some extra effort as well, or they're not. Because one player doesn't solve anything. At least you can survive with one player who's a defensive liability. If he gives you points on the other end, you might find solutions as a coach. But if there's like one or two guys who are willing to defend and others are not, there's no team defense at all, it's never going to work. It starts with the point guard and the center. How good are they? Are they capable of switching the size and all the other things? And then those wings that you have, what can they guard? What can they do? But it's all about the effort. And when there's lack of effort, it doesn't even matter how tall they are, how big they are.
And what scheme you play.
Yeah, exactly.
But man, if I'm part of this Partizan roster, if I'm a Partizan player, I'm ashamed that I was historically a part of a roster that forced Zeljko to resign, because it's the first time in his career that he stepped down during the season. He's a cult. He's bigger than anybody in Partizan. And it brings me back to Šarūnas Jasikevičius era in Kaunas, who built the culture. Because before Zeljko, Partizan was not that relevant on the European basketball map. Of course, they made some big investments, but I don't see any other coach, bringing so many fans to every game without making the EuroLeague playoffs for 2 consecutive seasons, and just having that hype, that support, that belief, or somebody other than Zeljko. I think Zeljko was huge, and he was a huge fan of the club. He showed that he has no ego by stepping down in this situation, because he could just have wait for another season, for the off season, to shake up the things and start over.
For 3 more years.
But now, I mean, to force him out, I don't know. I just felt sad. I'm like, if I'm the player,
Yeah.
I'm ashamed, because
If you're the player,
But they don't care.
But that's exactly, if you're the player, because that's how you look at things.
That's how you look at Zeljko. And I think, look at how Partizan, how many foreigners they have. I don't think they look at this like, oh, we got a Partizan legend kicked out there.
probably.
I know they're like part of the club for 1 or 2 years already, but I just don't think in their heads Zeljko is as big as in the fans of the club and in ours, the
Yeah,
Europeans.
you've been watching European basketball since the 90s, so to you,
Yeah.
it's everything. It seems that way. But if an American player signs a contract
True.
in Europe, coming from all-American environment, Zeljko Obradovic is a name that doesn't even ring a bell to him. Partizan, a big club in Serbia, okay, fine. Yeah, I will play. If I play good, I get a better contract next year. That is the mindset, honestly. And does anybody feel ashamed? Maybe they feel happy. Maybe they thought that Zeljko was the problem.
I think they feel happy.
So
For sure.
that's why I said, if you were a player, but you aren't.
But that's about respecting the history. And I remember that even LeBron in his pod said that, what separates good players from the greatest players, and the qualities that makes these players great, is just respecting the culture and respecting the history. So these guys are obviously not respecting the culture, the history, or the environment that they are in. And that's the problem.
But LeBron is talking about the NBA, which is a different landscape. It's the same clubs playing all the time, but some club might have the culture, and then next year the culture is gone. They're tanking for a draft pick, and it's different. So the respect for the culture, yeah, it's important, but I wouldn't compare what an NBA player is saying to what we have here in Europe. Well, first of all, we could talk about the fans. Like, are there any more demanding fans than in Serbia or Greece? I don't think so.
Probably not.
I don't think so. So an American player, for the first time arriving in Europe, he hasn't dealt with these things in the past. You can talk about a culture in Cleveland or Miami, but it's not like you have some crazy ultras going there every night, and when you're not performing well enough, they make protests, they throw things at you. It's just that doesn't happen. So, I cannot walk in somebody else's shoes, but I do believe what you said is the right thing about the lack of local players. These things wouldn't happen if you had like a strong core of Serbian players, but they are not available. There are no Serbian players available for them. So you must gamble with some Americans, some inexperienced younger guys, and sometimes it just doesn't work out.
And just my last 2 things on this. I think without Zeljko, Partizan is not in the EuroLeague at this moment. Yeah, they made investments, but him going there allowed them to attract the names of Kevin Punter, Zach Lidé, who were already playing in the EuroLeague.
Final Four, yeah.
And I don't think they go to Eurocup if Zeljko is not the coach of Partizan at the moment. That's how big his figure was. And the second part, shout out to Tristan Vukcevic, who was super happy yesterday after Zeljko got fired. He wrote on Instagram, "Life comes full circle," showing his real face. Tristan, shout out to you, my man.
And by the way, I think that this team can still thrive with some adjustments, maybe with some signings, because there is some talent. You could say that Shake Milton was also underperforming like crazy. We were expecting bigger things from him. Maybe when Carlik Jones returns, maybe they're going to shift a little bit. And there is talent on that team. And with the coach that gives more freedom offensively, that kind of tolerates more this fast-paced basketball because they have some talent. Offensively they can do things. So
Andrea Trinchieri and fast-paced basketball.
I'm not saying about Trinchieri. I'm just saying
Is
about.
Trinchieri coming back?
I think there's a high chance that he's coming back to Partizan. What would be your reactions?
Did you miss me?
Well, they are opting for someone who knows the environment and for someone who is probably very motivated to prove himself once again after parting ways with Žalgiris. I wouldn't say it's a bad signing, but if you want freedom and you want this fast-paced basketball and a coach that will tolerate your defensive mistakes, I don't know if that's the right
Exactly.
choice. Then you need something else.
I mean, they're of the same.
So what's the point
coaching
of switching from Zeljko to
profile.
Trinchieri then?
Just a different guy on the sideline then. Just for the players to be happy and give effort. I don't know. They were pissed with Zeljko. That's obvious. But tactically, he wants to play slow. He wants to play, I mean, they're not that different in their coaching styles. You're going to get benched after one mistake. You're going to play slow mostly.
Or maybe
most
he will
probably.
prove you wrong and he will just play to these
think-
players' strengths now.
Maybe, could be. But just, looking at his... I mean, okay, I haven't watched all the past teams he has coached, but he was usually, playing slower basketball. So I don't know. I would be interested to see that, but I think it's just the biggest change would just be it's a new face on the sideline. You have, once again, refresh, start, good mood again in the locker room. Everybody's happy because they were there.
Trinchieri
He's
is
just-
basically known for keeping a good mood.
But I think Partizan players at the moment is at their lowest, so.
Do you think that's an end of an era? I mean, there were a lot of tweets, social media reactions, with Ettore Messina stepping down, with Zeljko Obradović stepping down, to, historical coaches, iconic coaches. They actually make the top three in the most winningest EuroLeague coaches in this center, in this modern EuroLeague. Obradović won 5 EuroLeague titles. Messina got 3. Ataman also makes the top 3 with 3 titles. Yanis Psarakis made some great research. They both combined won 1,088 games in the EuroLeague history. I mean, both Zeljko and Messina combined. More than any other coach in the EuroLeague. They also each count over 2,000 career games in all kinds of competitions, and obviously some of the most respected coaches in the EuroLeague. But do you think this is an end of an era of Messina Obradović, which a lot of people kind of think that also end of an era of some old school coaching?
I honestly can't imagine any club now going for Messina. Maybe for some role in basketball operations, but not as the head coach. So I don't see that happening.
He stays in Milano. He has a role in the team.
Until the end of the season. And the thing is that I heard that he's really passionate about the work, basically. He wants to continue coaching. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him somewhere, maybe next season. I don't expect such a big profile coach to take over mid-season, and especially after things changing, just so recently, and big things, big shakeups.
But if we're talking about EuroLeague, I don't know what what club would sign Messina right now. But again, if the basketball landscape in Europe starts changing, new franchises create, new league creates, new job opportunities open up, that could be something for him. For Zeljko, I'm not sure. Probably Zeljko Obradović would have to be really convinced about a project where he's going, because Partizan was his passion project. He wasn't there for the money or anything like that. It was his passion project. I don't know. Probably Zeljko Obradović, the opportunity to sign him would still be tempting to many clubs in Europe, in the EuroLeague right now even.
That adds pressure, I guess, especially for these powerhouses. Like, I mean, if I'm Ataman, I don't feel very secure, to be honest with you.
Nah,
You think so?
I don't know.
Well, you're not secure if you don't deliver results, but he's delivering results. So
True.
what's there to be insecure about?
Yeah.
It just adds additional pressure. I mean, you must deliver.
So you can't say the same thing about Sharas then.
I think Sharas is different.
Why?
They have the different front office that wasn't attached to Zeljko before. Right now, they have a great connection with Daria. Panathinaikos, since Dimitris Giannakopoulos is owning the team, there is some history. There is this unfinished business that they have. I'm not saying that Ataman should lose his job, but I mean, at some point, I would see, it being a concern if, I don't know, Pana doesn't win the EuroLeague, for instance, playing at home, the Final Four.
Okay.
My question is just, do these two coaching legends still want to coach? They have done everything. They have probably all the money they need. And
They want. From what I hear from the conversations, they want. I remember talking to Zeljko last season. It was mid-season. Things were not going well for Partizan. He said he loves this work so much that he cannot imagine not being a basketball coach. So,
Okay, then sign with Efes.
a lot of empty.
I would see Messina going there, to be honest with you.
Still sign with
With
Efes.
Zeljko, I don't think so, but with Messina, why not?
To Efes?
Yeah.
Because Efes is actually another story. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk about it, but I feel sad a bit for Igor Kokoshkov. Like, you're being fired when all of your centers are injured. Shane Larkin is injured. You just don't have enough players right now. Just recently, you got a W against Barcelona. I know you were trashed by Monaco, but look, let's face it. You don't have players at the moment. You have a lot of problems. And you're a new coach, so why wouldn't you trust your new coach to go through these obstacles and just show some patience? It's not for me to decide if Kokoshkov is a good coach or a bad coach, but when I look at his situation, I have a lot of empathy for him because there were so many injuries.
I mean,
He's playing Schmitz and Osmani, and his backup is Brice Desser. And that's it. There's no Poirier, there's no Papagiannis. So many players are injured. Shane Larkin, your captain, your star player, is out also for 6 weeks.
Pau was kind of in the same situation. Of course, they were winning more games, but basically they were without centers before Kenneth Faridi happened. So imagine like Giannakopoulos and Pau firing Ataman because they were not delivering, To me,
But their results
stupid.
were better, okay, fair enough. But also Panathinaikos already has a winning record with this core of players.
Track record helps, sure.
FS did a rebuild. They signed new players.
Yeah, but to me, it doesn't make sense.
Whether
you have a track record or not.
An in-season signing. You didn't bring him a replacement for Papagiannis who tore his ACL.
You signed Kokoshkov to a 3-year deal. It's a project, obviously.
So-
it's not this one season coach that you
I
bring.
have no information from inside the locker room or the front office, so I have no idea. Maybe they were unhappy about certain things. I just try to base my opinion on what I see on the court and what I see on the injured players list.
Yeah.
And Efes were in a bad situation. Any coach would struggle with these problems.
I don't have too much information, but from what I heard historically, usually it's the ownership that takes calls on head coaches. And with owners, it's very different dynamics, It takes one losing streak or some bad feedback from the sponsors or whatever, not being the popular guy in the town, and that's it, You put all the blame to the coach. The new one that doesn't have any track record, and that's it. And maybe they're just having a hard time to recover after Ataman's era, when they were winning everything. So I don't know, but yeah, that's that one that didn't shock me, but I was like not expecting to take these calls so early.
Yeah, I agree.
And Maccabi, do you think that the coaching change over there changes any
Nope.
things? Sfaropoulos, whoever,
Nope.
taking over?
Absolutely not.
In the long term? I don't think so.
Me neither. I don't have much hopes, to be honest.
This team is not built to win games. This team is built for players to have stats, and playing in an empty gym is never gonna lead to good things in general. So I don't think a new coach will make drastic changes and improvements. I honestly believe that a coach like Katash is the best fit for a team like Maccabi that plays around inexperienced American players. You need to give them freedom. You need to live with their mistakes. You have to admit that you're not going to be a great defensive team. They put a lot of trust in Lonnie Walker to be the star player. I believe that Lonnie Walker is dragging them down more than he's getting them up. But if a new coach comes in and he has to play with these same players and do all the same things, why would it be better? Short term, maybe. Who knows?
I've just checked EuroLeague's longest serving head coaches. And by the way, Messina was the last coach that was hired before 2020. All the others were hired in 2020 or 2021 or later. Bartzokas remains as the longest serving head coach. He is in this role for over 2,000 days, basically over 5 years. Zeljko was second, so he's out. Odet Katash, he's still third. Okay, now he's second, but not for long, I guess. There's Ataman and Pau, Šarūnas Jasikevičius. Messina was the first one, so some big changes are coming up out there. There are 10 coaches who are working in the EuroLeague clubs less than 1 year. Vasilis Pasvalidis just had this 1 year anniversary at working in Monaco. At the same time, we see same names circulating, and some potential replacements, which I'm not a fan of. I don't really like it because I would love to see new faces. I like the project of, Tabellini in Paris, for instance, even Tomas Masiulis with Žalgiris. At the same time, I understand that usually during the mid-season, experimenting is the least acceptable thing for the front offices. They want some quick shake-up, some coaches with a track record, so it's probably hard to expect some surprising names to pop out in the list. Yeah. Although, I don't know, looking at long-term, same name, same coaches, I don't have anything against them, but, looking at long-term is the same outcome, so...
Yeah, but the new coach, the young coach, would need time to install his system, and you do that during the preseason, not when you have 2 days between games and you cannot call these real practices, during the season.
And again, you have to get back to what I said earlier, roster building. So the new coach comes in, he didn't build the roster. He didn't have a say in anything that happened.
Yeah.
You have to start from the summer. You need to have a fresh start. Maybe a good example of a coach that can step in right now and make certain changes and improvements is Xavi Pascual in Barcelona, because they have a lot of experienced veteran players, experienced EuroLeague vets. So it will not be that hard for Xavi to implement his schemes and rules for the team that is very experienced in general. Vesely, Kleiber, Shingelia, and all the other, La Provitola and all the other guys who are experienced EuroLeague vets. But Maccabi, no, it's very different.
Barca should be so lucky to get Xavi Pascual a couple of weeks ago, because if they were late, they would be out of race.
I honestly believe they probably were in contact with Xavi for a while because of the ties he has with the club already. And Joan Peñarroya left him a team with 7-4 in a pretty good situation in the standings. And now he's just going to change the game a little bit and maybe improve the team.
With 5 coaches being replaced is not a very good time to be a EuroLeague head coach at the moment, although it's a good time to be a free agent EuroLeague head coach, because now we have plenty of good job opportunities. And also it's a good time to actually not to be a BN Plus member, because we have good Black Friday offers for you. BN Plus membership is only for €1 right now. For those who haven't subscribed to BN Plus before or haven't been members for over 3 months, make sure to go to basketnews.com/plus and get this €1 deal right now to get a lot of great extra stuff.
Yeah, if you don't land the FS job, sign for BN Plus and you will have a lot of basketball content.
And there's not much to lose.
Yeah.